Several people have asked me to do a video about the director Bob Chinn and what it was like to work with him. Well, I've got to tell you, I didn't know it at the time, but Bob turned out to be one of my favorite directors to work with. He was laid back, easygoing, no matter what kind of hell tended to happen on the set, whether it was an integral actor or actress being late or some kind of other catastrophe. He was always able to adapt, and he never lost his temper. Now, like I said, I hadn't had much experience when I worked with Bob, so I didn't realize how lucky I was. Later, I did a movie for Essex Video, and the director on that film was Edwin Brown. Eddie Brown is what we all called him. And he and his wife worked together. His wife was not an actress, but she had written the script for the movie I did. This was for Naughty Girls Need Love Too. Now, when I first met Eddie and Summer at their home, he welcomed me and my husband with open arms. He was all happy to be working with another couple in the business and how cool it was that we could work together, and he worked with his wife, and this was a bond that we could share, according to him. And so I felt comfortable, and so did my husband. We thought everything would be fine. We didn't anticipate the problems that transpired. So we get to the set, we start doing our shooting. I'm doing the lines that lead up to my sex scene with Randy West, and everything's going fine. I look over, Bud's right there, he's giving me a thumbs up, I'm giving a big smile, everything's going great. Then we get down to the nitty-gritty. We start doing our action scene, and I look up for Bud, and he's nowhere to be found. Later on, I find out that two big guys, like bouncers, came up to Bud, one on either side, and they escorted him off the set. I had no idea. Bud didn't know this was going to happen. This was a surprise to both of us, particularly after the warm reception we got from Edwin Brown. Well, it turns out this was something that he does quite frequently to any couples working in the business. Apparently, he thinks that the husband or boyfriend is going to freak out, and even though nobody has acted in such a way, he takes it upon himself to take precautions and just escort the unneeded boyfriend or husband off the set. Well, I was furious, and of course, so was Bud. We had a good relationship where we could do these things together because we knew that this was just an act, that I was going home with him when the day was done, that I was married to him. That was the man I loved, not the guy I was shooting a film with. That the guy that I was working with and that I was pretending to be attracted to in this movie had nothing to do with how I really felt. We all knew we were making a movie. Apparently, Eddie Brown just assumed that there was going to be a problem. So I realized at that point how lucky I was to have been working with Bob Chinn all along. He was a great guy. Now, there came a time where he retired and we didn't work with him anymore. And I gotta say, I missed him. He was a wonderful person to work with, very nice, like I said, very easygoing. And I felt like I had made a friend there, you know? It's not like we were gonna talk to each other when we weren't working, because he had work to do, I had things I had to do, you know, but he was a good guy. And it was really sad that some people, like Edwin Brown, couldn't learn from this man and be more chilled out and don't anticipate problems and don't act like there's a problem when there isn't one. Because Bob Chinn was the master at keeping cool and making everybody happy. And when you walked away from the set, you knew you had a good movie in the can, and you had a good experience, and you worked with really quality people. One of the things I really liked about Bob was he took the time to make sure everybody lit the set just right and that we got the best camera angles we could get. He wanted to make sure that he showed his actors and actresses in the best way possible so that they looked their best. And he even took the time to make sure that we could see what the set looked like. Now, we didn't have digital. This was back on film, so we couldn't just quickly see what we had shot. We couldn't tell what we looked like on camera, but we could step behind the camera and look through the viewfinder and see how well the set was lit, and that this was going to really make us stand out and look nice. And when I finally saw the finished product on a big screen, indeed it did. I was very impressed with how well I looked. And I have to say, this was, of course, the makeup artist had a lot to do with it. The people that lit the set had a lot to do with it. The cinematographer that got the right cameras, angles, and everything had a lot to do with it. But the bottom line, when it finally comes down to it, the buck stops with the director on the set. And Bob Shinn was an expert at making sure that we had the right lighting, the right set, the right angle to flatter each and every one of the people he was working with. So Bob Shinn was marvelous, and I didn't realize it because he was the first director I worked with. I didn't realize how lucky I was until later when I worked with others who weren't so good. So yeah, thanks for asking me about Bob Shinn. Good questions there, and he was a great director.